I live in a two-floor mother-daughter house, which means there are two kitchens. My sister occupies the downstairs, while I take the upstairs. She isn't home much because she often stays with her boyfriend, who lives 20 miles away. At 30 years old, I shouldn't let being home alone bother me, but admittedly, sometimes it does. One night, while alone in my living room watching a scary movie, I felt particularly uneasy. My living space has an open layout, combining the living room, dining room, and kitchen into one large area. Sitting on the couch in the middle of the room meant my back was turned to a significant portion of the space behind me. For someone easily spooked, it wasn't the most comforting place to be while watching a horror film. As I sat in the dark, illuminated only by the flickering light of the TV, I found myself glancing over my shoulder frequently. I like to think I'm not the only 30-year-old who does that. After the movie, I brushed my teeth, turned off all the lights, and went to bed. I slept for about 2 hours before waking up around 1 a.m. At first, I wasn't sure why I had woken up, but then I heard a voice downstairs. It sounded like my sister, as if she was inside the house, not calling for me to open the door. Still groggy, I thought she might be calling for me or arguing with her boyfriend. I got out of bed and ventured into the pitch-black hallway, turning on the lights as I made my way through the living room. I heard my sister's voice again from downstairs, now clearly saying my name. I called back, "What is it?" as I descended the dark staircase. I fumbled around for the light switch in the foyer, but couldn't find it. Groggy as I was, I stumbled down the hallway toward her kitchen, finally locating the switch and flicking it on. The dim kitchen light gradually brightened, revealing her little apartment, including the living room. Yet, to my shock, there was no one there. Not my sister, nor her boyfriend. I checked her bedroom, but it was empty. I called her name loudly, but only silence greeted me. Just after I yelled, I heard something drop to the floor in my sister's bedroom, which I had just checked. Feeling like a frightened child, I raced back upstairs to my room where my phone was. I tried calling her several times, but she didn't answer. Locked in my room, I questioned whether I had hallucinated everything. Eventually, I fell back asleep. In the morning, I woke up to text from my sister asking why I had called her at 1 a.m. I asked if she had been home the night before, and she replied that she was at her boyfriend's house. Curious, I went downstairs to her bedroom to investigate what might have fallen, but found nothing on the floor that could have made that noise. I want to believe I hallucinated everything, as the alternative is far more terrifying. However, the vividness of hearing my sister's voice and that sound in her room truly unsettles me. Growing up, I was often left home alone. My mom, a single RN with a demanding schedule, frequently had to work overnight, especially when my brother went off to college. One such night, I had a girl named Molly over. After a few movies, she had to leave because her parents didn't allow her out late, leaving me alone. Later that night, while in my upstairs bedroom, I heard a dragging noise from the deck outside. I looked out the window and saw someone sitting in one of the deck chairs. Thinking it was Molly, I called her name, but whoever was looked up at me, and it wasn't her. Panic surged through me as I pulled away from the window, realizing I didn't recognize this person. I texted a few friends in our group chat, asking if it was one of them messing with me. They all denied it, which made me even more uneasy. Despite my fear, I peeked out the window again, and the person was still there, staring up at me. I quickly turned off the TV and huddled in bed, terrified. I didn't want to make any noise, fearing that he would hear me. After what felt like an eternity, I finally mustered the courage to look out the window again, only to see him still there, watching me. I asked him what he wanted, but he simply started laughing silently, his shoulders shaking. I could hear a wheezing sound that sent chills down my spine. I begged him to go away and retreated to my bed, but I could hear him trying to push open the back door. Panicking, I hid in my room until my mom returned around 9 p.m. I told her everything, but she was furious that I hadn't called 911. In hindsight, I realized how foolish that was. This was the most intense night of my life, and I learned the importance of being vigilant when home alone. Another incident occurred when I was 10. My family of 5 was shaken when we received a dreaded phone call about my older brother, who had been hit by a car while out with friends. My parents rushed to the hospital, leaving me home alone. I was worried but didn't want to visit him in a bad state. After a few hours of playing video games, I heard the front door open. It was past midnight, so I turned off my TV and climbed into bed. When I didn't hear my parents upstairs, I felt uneasy and crept to the banister overlooking the living room. I was petrified to see 3 tall figures standing there, definitely not my family. Frozen in fear, I quietly retreated to my room and hid in my closet. I could hear footsteps approaching. My heart raced as I held my breath, praying they wouldn't find me. After a long silence, the closet door opened. I remained still, terrified. After what felt like an eternity, the door closed again, and I heard footsteps leave the room. It took nearly an hour for my parents to return. When they did, I discovered that the front door had been left ajar and several valuables were missing. I was lucky to have escaped unharmed, but I often wonder if the intruder saw me hiding. One summer, I was left home alone for a week while my parents traveled with a friend. Living in Newark, Ohio, our house backed on a woods. One evening, while smoking on the deck, I thought I heard a voice calling from the woods. At first, I dismissed it, but the voice persisted, asking for help. Feeling uneasy, I approached the edge of the woods, but when the voice instructed me to come closer, I turned back, locking all the doors. I felt paranoid and vulnerable, especially after hearing splashing sounds in the backyard. When I looked out the window, I saw a man hiding behind the pool. I closed the blinds, hoping he would lose interest, but he began banging on the window, screaming for help. I yelled back that the police were coming, trying to sound more aggressive than he was. Eventually, the banging stopped, and I sat trembling on the couch, relieved that he seemed to have given up. I managed to sleep that night, though I wondered how I would have reacted if I hadn't been high.